Hello, everybody. How y'all doing tonight? Are you able to hear us all right?
Still a little bit of a delay.
Yeah.
Very long
Yeah, the delay seems
Quite
worse.
lengthy.
But I mean, it's still not terrible. But yeah.
Wonderful. All the board members want to chime in real quick just to make sure that we can all be heard just fine.
Testing.
Okay.
Hear me now.
My turn.
Okay. Alrighty. So it's about 7 o'clock. So we are going to call tonight's meeting to order for the October 2020 board meeting. First thing on the agenda, as always, is to recap the off-cycle board actions and votes. The only thing that has happened since last time is the official. Dave has received the majority of the yes votes to take the member-at-large seat. So thank you, Dave. We look forward to serving with you for the remainder of this term, which I believe is just through the end of this cycle. The next thing, as I'm sure many of you have seen, Heather is stepping down from the SOS position. Tonight is going to be her last meeting with us. I would like to thank her very much for her time and her effort put into the position as the SOS coordinator. She's done amazing things, and I just hope that we are able to continue with that and keep it as good as she has been able to maintain it.
She
Thank you
she
very
was
much.
online earlier, but she's not currently on the call right now.
Yes,
So
But you could probably see us through the video, right?
yes,
So-
she can. She will be joining
okay.
us back. But thank you very much, Heather. Next thing on the list is our open session. We always reserve the first 30 minutes of the meetings for discussions, open things not on the meeting agenda. If there's anybody on the board in the call here or anybody in the chat that has anything they would like to discuss, please go ahead. There's Heather back.
See her.
Hey, there we are.
Did you have the YouTube up, Heather, so you heard Tristan, or did you miss that with the technical difficulties?
You are muted.
I switched to a totally different computer in another room.
No.
And I'm going to be looking at the sky all day because it's on my TV screen. So
No, I just wanted to say thank you for the time and effort you've put into SOS and ATC as a whole. You've done amazing things. We were glad to have you, and we're really gonna miss you. I hope that we're able to keep things going as well as you have. Don't be a stranger, please. We're here. We like to talk to you, even if it's not shop.
thanks. I don't know what to say to that.
I had clapped, but clapping again would make me look like a dork, and I don't need any help, so it's okay. Thank you very much.
Well, it's obviously it's rough right now because we can't see anyone. But that's how it is. So.
All right. Since nobody in the chat has had anything brought up, Heather, did you have anything for the open session before we go on?
Not for open session, no.
Okay. So we nobody's brought up anything in chat for the plan discussions with partners. We haven't had any equipment rental requests that I am aware of. So we can move on to the coordinator updates. Troy with Enemy Detour, you're up.
I guess my first question would be: are we looking to fold this into the budget discussion, or does that fall somewhere later on the agenda?
If you just want to give the majority of the updates, we can have the majority of the budget discussion on the list for later. I was aiming for not just Detour, but the organization of ATC as a whole, where we're sitting.
So, not to be glib, but the budget discussion later will depend on if I have updates, and not this evening. As far as real time right now, there isn't a lot of quantifiable progress overall. Like I said, we've had some discussions with the hotel about what things look like physically there now, so that we can sort of consider what that might look like with a physical convention in April. What we've also had some discussions about what our path would look like with our hotel partner if we are not able to hold a physical convention for 2021. We had our budget meeting a few weeks ago, which we'll discuss more in detail later on the agenda. So a lot of things are sort of in a holding pattern, both in terms of figuring out where we are with the budget, as well as trying to, continue to monitor things worldwide, nationwide, and particularly statewide regarding any changes to the current restrictions that would alleviate some of the obstacles that we are currently facing, and would continue if they were still in place in April. I think, budget discussions has kind of been the biggest one, and still waiting to see before we are able to make a more informed decision on a physical convention or not, and what each of those options would look like moving more forward with those. So unless there's any questions from the board or anyone in chat, as far as the updates, that's where we're at.
I am not seeing anything in the chat here. I know we've discussed a bunch of stuff amongst ourselves on this board, so I know some of that we're saving for later. So we can move on to charities. I know, Dave, you've kind of been taking some of the reign on that. Any updates?
Well, no, I was going to be the charities coordinator until I became a board member. I still keep track of information, but there's been before I haven't received any information that anything's happening. If you would like me to, and I would like to do so, as a board member, I'd like to make it my task or mission or something to find a charities coordinator, and also keep an eye on it while we're still looking for a coordinator and putting together a team. So that's what I'll be planning to do.
Yes, that would be very appreciated.
Then I will be glad to do that, and I will let you know until we have a coordinator. I will report to the board. What do you call it? Acting coordinator or something? I don't know. Anyway,
it's just under board oversight.
Yeah.
Board oversight. Then I'll have it under board oversight till I can find a coordinator. Thank you.
Okay. We will next. We got communities. I'm gonna kind of roll, since I've kind of been taking the handle on the communities and the communications. I'm gonna roll those together. We don't really have any new news on those. We haven't had any new applicants. I am looking at getting some postings out for these and the other remaining open positions here over the course of this next week. Once again, to all of our major sites, trying to expand a little bit more and find some more. See if there's any more interest in the outside of our local communities. We have been in, or I have been in talks with is this they've kind of used a couple different names. As the Cosplay Tweens Club is what one of the ones that they've been calling it. We got posted that recently to our Facebook and our Instagram. It's a youth cosplay club they've been putting together, so we're kind of acting as mediator with them. There has been a couple of people that have reached out over Discord and Facebook with some interest in them that we have that I've directed their way. But as of yet, that's really the only update between those two coordinator branches. Next up would be Heather with SOS.
Unmute. So I imagine, I don't know what I missed when I was trying to get back in, but I imagine that I don't have a replacement yet.
Not at this time. We have not gotten any applicants for the SOS position either.
Okay. Do you guys have a interim person for board oversight?
So far, it's been me. I'm more than welcome to do the best that I am able.
Okay.
I'm definitely going to be asking people to be helping me with it, because that's what you have been doing. I know full well is not a one person job.
Well, and right now, I mean, so I did let my team know that my hope was that there'd be an interim person from the board. However, I also told them to be prepared for the possibility that it may just be on hiatus, because, I mean, we've been doing what we can to try to keep some socialization going online and whatnot. I know we do have a handful of people that really appreciate us doing that and regularly come to things, but despite best efforts, it's tough to keep people motivated and engaged and whatnot, because this whole situation is just really heartbreaking and wearing on people. And obviously nobody thought that it would be this much of an issue for this long. So I've had a couple people say that they're just, they got to put it on pause until we get back to in-person and that sort of thing. So we have a couple of socials out on a calendar for the next 2 weeks as sort of a buffer for possible turnover. But at this point, I pretty much have 2 people that are still sticking with it, because it's just people have drifted off and gotten discouraged. And since it's been, like 8 months at this point,
Okay.
like it's hard for me to, ask people to keep giving it their all under the circumstances.
Like 2 people like helping you run the event, or is that what you
Hosting
mean?
the socials, yeah.
Yeah.
We were doing 5 or 6 of us rotating originally, and now we're down to 2.
How many attendees do you usually get?
About half a dozen. So I mean, it's small. I know it means a lot to the people that have been going,
Mhm.
but it is small. It is right now the only thing that we've really been doing. So if the department needed to be on a hiatus for a bit, it's the least awful time to do that, I guess. As much as connection is something that the community really needs right now, the Discord is, it's a forced substitute. So that's just facts. It's the best we can do, and it's only going to cover so much. So I told them that I would let them know who was going to fill in and get you guys in touch with each other, but they are, open to the possibility that we might have to put it on pause. I know that Eric and Julie will probably keep chatting with people on the Discord regardless.
Yep.
Just
Yeah,
because they're about doing that.
I see Eric quite a lot in the chat.
Yep. So, which I told them, by all means, if you've got time and you want to go on there and chat, do it. Because I know the people that are there really appreciate that. But it's even if I wasn't stepping aside, it was getting tough to keep people, engaged and motivated when this is the situation that we're in. My branch is sadly not built for not being able to be face to face.
Yeah.
So the other notes are on my other computer, which is now upstairs since all my computers are being a pain in the ass. But I do plan on having all of the stuff for the detour service pins will be assembled and communicated and dropped off at the office and whatnot by the end of this week, along with my keys. And I can't remember if there's anything else that I need to turn over. Oh, I'm make sure that I get the Google Drive updated, because I do have SOPs for all of our major events. I did put out there also to the team and to you guys that when we do ultimately get back to being able to do in-person events, I'm more than happy to help out and make sure that those are able to get picked up again. I'm available for questions. I'm available to pitch in. I'd be happy to volunteer for the first few and just make sure that stuff gets going. And I do have the write-ups for all of those things as well for people to reference.
Okay.
So
Thank you very much for that. That's monstrously appreciated. Okay.
Just it bums me out that this, because we were doing real well at the beginning of the year. It was going so well.
I was really excited to see how much the swap meet was growing. That was
Yep.
really cool.
And then the floor fell out from under us, but it's nobody's fault. It's, unavoidable, really, at least by anybody who,
Yeah.
Troy's
Troy?
got a hand up.
So, a question for the board, and I realize that this isn't an issue the board created, but it is an issue the board is faced with, and just trying to figure out a more cogent plan. We're down to one coordinator.
Congrats, Troy.
So I regret to inform you. No.
How to give everyone on the board a heart attack in 3 easy steps.
We're down to one coordinator, and while Heather is saying, a lot of it is probably coincidence, COVID related, hard for things that are supposed to take place face to face, like clubs and SOS. But it's something I feel like we should either plan for, like Heather said, we should plan to put things, and not asking for an answer now, but plan to put things on hiatus that can be, at the same time planning for how to recruit people, find people for these roles, rather than just, plus, not saying I'm not confident in board oversight, but just looking at the number of things, Tristan, that are on your plate. Old Country Buffet closed. So, that's a lot, to president, head of tech, overseeing communities, overseeing SOS. So I guess just as a member, an ATC member, I would like to see if the board, can formulate a plan, a further plan on how to address this to help things go forward. So it's not just one coordinator and the board having to try and facilitate all these roles in addition to their board membership.
I've got a comment along those lines, actually, and at risk of being a jerk. Just from, my experience and observation and whatnot, I would strongly encourage the board / the organization on the whole to do some kind of internal investigation, audit, something like that, to try to determine why it's so hard to fill leadership positions and how it can be done better. Because in my case, I've been in this post for 10 years. In my case, I'm just ready to be done. But with all of the roles that people have dropped from, and the amount of time it's taken to try to fill those, in months and months and years in some cases, I think that and I personally don't have ideas, or nothing is coming directly to mind, but I would encourage the board to examine that and ask itself, why are we having trouble filling these spots and keeping people in them, and how can we do it better, because it's an ongoing issue.
Dave?
Thank you. While reviewing how we get people, how we keep them, why do they burn out, why do they leave, I would just like to point out, in my other facilities at different places with contacts with Minnesota Council of Nonprofits, with GPS, etc., and so forth, we're not the only ones.
That's true.
We're not the only ones that are having a reduction in people who wish to volunteer, especially for positions that are year long. It's something to do. It could be something to do with the greater options for entertainment, but there's absolutely no reason not to say, hey, why is this happening? What an exit interview with you just told us why, but other people convert exit interviews, but I don't know if it's just us or society at large. And I just wanted to let the board know and everybody who's watching that other places are having that issue as well.
That's totally true. There's been a major leadership shortage in the community for a while. Maybe you find out that it's just circumstances and it's nothing internal. Just something worth looking at.
Can I have a saying in this? So
Well, let's go with
Sure,
Troy
go.
first because he had his hand up.
Okay.
And then
You know,
wait, how do you raise your hand in here? I had my hand raised too.
She did.
Oh.
I've only seen a static image of you, so I did not know you had your hand raised.
Oh,
I'll be brief. I'm just gonna. It's a lot of echoing what Dave and Heather has said. I think that there's an opportunity there. I've been involved for a while, and I certainly could give an opinion on some things that I think some of it being said. I think we need to continue to look, in addition to internally, also externally. If we don't already have position descriptions, we need them. People need to know what the job is that they're applying for. And, I might be in the minority on this, but being the only applicant does not make you the best applicant. That's sometimes no is the best answer.
Totoro?
Did I lose something?
yeah. So as one of the newer board members, not just on ATC, but on Anime Detour's team also, I'd like to have a saying in it. And I've stated this before, privately and in groups, saying that, like, I did not feel welcome when I first joined. I felt like I had to step on eggshells. I felt like there was a subset of people who are welcome, and then there were other people who are just like, why are you here? Like, don't you have better things to do on the Saturday? And I was just kind of like, well, yeah, I do have better things to do, but Anime Detour was like Anime Detour is not what it used to be. And I didn't feel welcome saying those things. So basically, sorry, I'm going off track. So basically, number one, I didn't know that the positions were open like anywhere regarding like on social media, of course, except for like the last two positions, which was guest and Artist Alley. But prior to that, I had a really hard time figuring out who was staff, who was not staff, who was head, and basically it was not on social media, so I didn't apply. But also, when I was there, the staff just weren't very welcome to me. And then I saw buttons and I just kind of stuck to her like glue. And then she was the one who like told me things here and there and like, oh, this is the person you talk to. You would talk to Tim if you wanted to be on AA or whatever, And then obviously there was the fact that like the staff that I wanted to talk to wasn't there either. So that's my experience on it, and a few other of my friends also.
Heather?
Okay. That's not an unusual experience, I'm sad to say. When I was more involved with Detour still, it used to be one of my roles to try to prevent that. I did a welcome wagon thing for a while, specifically with the purpose of trying to help new people feel welcome, since that was something that we were falling down on. And I haven't been to Detour meetings in a while, so I'm not trying to criticize how things are done now because I haven't seen it. I just want to emphasize that still is very important. At times I felt like people didn't recognize that being an important role or an important function. And I mean, if we're still hearing stories like that and we're still getting feedback like that, just to re-emphasize that is important if you want new blood to come and stay. So please don't let that slip through the cracks. I did it until I burned out, is the truth. Because
I mean,
cut out for that.
I think what Detour was going for a while ago, not saying now within the recent few years, but it was like, oh, Detour was trying to be a family and stuff like that. Because you were trying to be a family, it kind of almost felt cliquey. And then like I couldn't join the clique. Like I legit just could not join the clique until I found that one person who was like, oh yeah, I'll help you. And then, like I said, I stuck to her like glue, and then I figured it out. And then I had to fight my way to the top. I had to like fight and tell you guys what was wrong. And even then, it was like really difficult.
Yeah, that's familiar.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about just Detour. I'm talking about ATC too. It was mind numbing.
I don't want to derail the train too much, but based on what Hotura said, coming up on about 9 years on staff, ditto. It is a systemic and historic problem that goes back a long, long time. So,
yeah, cannot say I disagree that I have felt that myself with, again, 10 plus years. There's been a number of times I've felt similar, and I know that's not just at Detour, but that's among
at least at
ATC.
Detour, we will continue to look at ways of changing that. With it's hard without in-person meetings, and we haven't had an in-person meeting in 7 months, but it's something that has happened to a number of us before we were in positions of leadership. So it's something that we have not forgotten in these positions of leadership to keep an eye on at the Detour level, or not keep an eye on, but find ways to change that at the Detour level.
But no, I know that is one of the things that I know we've brought up several times we need to discuss, and I know we do definitely need to set a time to have that discussion outside of board meetings. This is a much longer and more in-depth discussion than is necessarily meant for just a board meeting. But I know as far as getting the information out there, not to get away from some of the problems, but to as far as getting the information out there, I know I've been trying to get it out there. I know we were trying to get it cross-posted to some convergence pages, the position announcements, at least, to both Twin Cities Geeks and Convergence. I know Troy was reaching out to people, but last I had talked to him, he had not heard a response from anybody about where or acceptability of posting those across on those pages. Sorry, I was reading chat. Give me just a second. Yes, Ingrid, you are not incorrect. Optics are not always the best here. I know that's one thing that I've been trying to change, is to get more of our information out there, more readily available than just emailing the board to ask a question or hope it's listed in the notes. If you do have any questions or want more information, please do email us and ask us. If we have it, we'll do our best to get it to you. That goes for absolutely anybody. But to get back on it, anyways, like I said, we're trying to cross post it to more things. If anybody has any other suggestions or ideas, please do let us know. I'm not too involved in the community as I live an hour away, so I don't know too many of the opportunities. Troy, then Christina.
I just wanted to check and see. I know when we had talked about posting these positions, particularly the positions of leadership, specifically the element about posting them externally, we had talked about some volunteer posting websites. Did we, and I don't ask this facetiously, but just because I don't know, did we ever follow that up to actual posting on those sites? And if so, did we get any kind of engagement?
I created an account and I posted one of them, and honestly, all I've gotten out of it is a bunch of spam emails from that website now. So I don't think it's gonna get us anywhere. Yeah.
The one I looked at that we hadn't discussed, there was fees associated with it, and I didn't want to, as we've had nothing coming in, I didn't want to, put us on the hook for any additional expenses that we may not be able to cover, or may not, I should say, not want to cover.
Volunteermatch.org, and I honestly can't even remember which position I put up there, but I just kind of did it to try it out, and it doesn't really it's really not designed for this sort of thing. But I tried.
Okay. Anybody else have any other questions or concerns before on that subject before we move on? Again, please feel free to message us to those of you in the audience. I know we're going to be continuing this discussion amongst ourselves even after the board meeting. Those of you that are in the audience, if you have any, if you want to be part of that, please do email us. We'd be more than happy to have input from outside of just ourselves on these. We are not perfect, we are not flawless, and I will readily admit to that any day of the week. Since I'm not seeing anybody or anything else, next we are going to move on to finance. Kim, that is.
We'll just jump right into it. So we'll just start with the balances. You know, they don't really change from month to month right now. They just go down. So this morning the bank account balance was $203,387.51. The scholarship fund was $2,262.37. And the leg account was $12,998.19. That's where that sits right now. Christina, do you put that on the YouTube channel so they see those numbers right away, or did they only see them? They only hear me.
They hear you, and they'd see them if they went and looked up our board notes.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't have any way of. I mean,
I
Tristan
didn't know.
could if he wanted to do that, but that would be a lot.
If you'd like
Oh,
to,
no.
I can.
No, it's not necessary. I just have not a YouTube person, so I didn't know how it worked.
I mean, I guess he could put it in the chat pretty easily.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's okay. All right. So then on Thursday morning, I sent everybody both the September financial, which should look like it does pretty much for the last few months. Very minimal income. In fact, in September, we only just had the small little earnings from the bank account. And then
I keep using Amazon Smile. You get like 50 cents from me.
and we'll tell you that we did get Amazon Smile, but it's in the next month's report.
Oh,
It
okay.
didn't post until October.
The one thing, Kim, is I know in the last one, I know there was one or two people that had asked me after the fact. We had a $45 account fee, and that we had a fee-free account. I kept forgetting to ask you, so I did ask William when I called him to get my stuff finished. And he assumed that was for card processing.
I believe it's part of the merchant fees.
Yeah, for the card stuff.
This standard, that is the basic minimum fee that is charged every single month.
Okay.
And depending on what we have being processed on a monthly basis, if we have a lot of stuff coming and going through the merchant bank, that cost goes up. It will never be lower.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. And so then also you should have received the year-to-date report. I'm hoping everybody took a look at it.
Yes, I did.
What questions do we have on it? I think it's pretty easy to read. I don't know. It should look just like, well, I guess Troy saw it last year.
I like that. I like the net is positive this time.
Well, yeah, I know. I understand it's a little deceiving. I would hope that it would still be positive after if things had been on a normal process, but
yeah,
positive is always good right now. All right, so you have each of the transactions, and if you were looking at it and you didn't understand maybe what kind of a business expense we have that's like $29, you would be able to go down to the last few pages of it and find that in the expenses, and you would see that that's the annual charge that we have to pay the state of Minnesota for filing our annual reports. You know, so it breaks it. I think the last half in the transaction detail is a lot more informative than the first few pages of it.
Quite.
And I try to keep it broken out as clear as possible for everything, but go ahead, Tristan.
Oh no, I just agreeing. It's quite detailed. I like it.
Okay. I thought you were going to ask a question.
No,
so-
my only I do have one question, but that is for the budget discussion later.
All right. All right. So I guess that's the report. We'll leave the other thing for later that's on there. Heather, I did get the check from St. Paul Parks. So that is good. It hasn't been deposited yet, but it came in last week.
Awesome.
It is time for the 990 fiscal year ended. I have reached out to the lady that did the 990 at Accounting Angel LLC. She's the one that did it last year, and she has agreed that she would do it again for us if we are agreeable to have her do it. She also said that she would be able to process our 1099Rs that we need to have processed this year because of the contract and everything, the payments to the guest services. They will all get 1099s.
Wow. Eee.
Yeah, I know. I didn't want to have to do them, but she said she would put that in.
The less we have to do, the less headaches we might have.
Okay. I did tell her that I have everything prepared already, so I am hoping to get it all set up with her and get all of the QuickBook reports and everything over to her in the next couple of weeks so I can get it done before the end of the year and everything goes crazy.
I'm comfortable with that.
All right. I don't think I have anything. Oh, our D&O insurance is due on Thursday. I did pay that with State Farm.
DNO?
So unfortunately, you do have to approve that expense because I paid it. And it has posted to the bank account. It posted as of this morning. So
What is DNO?
that's the directors and officers.
Ah,
That's
okay.
the additional insurance that we bought outside of the liability insurance, which is what we have to pay in March.
Okay.
They're just not on the same timetable because of when they were each gotten.
Ah, yeah, I remember we just got that last year, didn't we?
We did.
Okay.
So I think that's everything, unless somebody has another question.
Not at the moment.
Okay.
Chat. I'm not seeing anything in the chat. So then, does anybody feel the need for a 15-minute break at this time, or are we comfortable moving on and saving that for a little bit later?
I think we can wait because it hasn't even been an hour since we started.
Okay. Yeah, we'll save that for a little bit later. So next is our bylaws revision. Ashley, our magnificent hero here, has got that finished up. If you would like to go over that, Ashley.
Yeah, I can share. There were only 2 updates since the last time, and they were the last 2 updates. Well, there was 4 things that were requested, and then I have since lost the meeting. There we go.
Oh, good, because my thing went away when I tried to view it.
Ooh, too big. Let's not be that big. Okay. So now I just need to remember what the 2 changes were. Okay, so under meetings, we added a line specifically to authorize electronic meetings as long as we have simultaneous visual and audio communication in use, meaning that videos have to be on and audio is in use. That's currently not required in our bylaws, nor is electronic meetings technically authorized by our bylaws. So that's just a single line there. And then we added in extra. So there was a request for specific election language, tiebreakers, and voting specifications, especially if we were moving to an electronic voting system. So we added this article here. So we moved the amendments article to Article 6. It used to be Article 5. Article 5 is now elections and voting. So elections are held during the ATC annual meeting to fill positions on the board of directors whose terms have ended. The candidate with the most votes for a position is elected. So tie breaking, in the event of a tie preventing the filling of a position, a reballoting of the membership shall be performed containing only the tied candidates for the contested position. Prior to the reballoting, if all tied candidates agree, the current sitting board members may produce a list of questions to be answered and presented to the voting members. So as most people remember, we ran into this issue on how to handle tie breaks when we did the special election for president. The important part here is the preventing a filling of position. So in the case that there are multiple seats for the same position open, so like a member at large position, if two people are tied in votes, but there's enough seats available for them, we don't need to reballot for them at all. They would just take 2 seats rather than, have to reballot for 1. And then, just in case we want to have additional questions, all the candidates who are contested need to agree to it, but we have the option to provide more information, kind of like we did for the special election. And then we specified voting. Voting ballots will be open and available for a period of time as follows. So elections as scheduled would be for 2 hours. And then bylaw changes and special elections would both be open for 7 days, as we've been doing those in the past. If we want to change those dates, that's fine. That's just what we had it for. 2 hours would be something we could fit into a meeting to allow the electronic voting, even if we did have an in-person meeting. So voting members must have submitted their votes prior to the designated closure time for them to be counted, and the secretary will collect and announce the results of the vote following the closure of the ballot. So those are the only changes that we had. Are there any questions on those 2 changes at all?
So for the 2-hour time limit, I guess I get that it's supposed to kind of coincide with an in-person meeting, but I feel like we're going to this e-ballot system to allow, absentee voting, that sort of thing. I mean, is it something where we'd maybe want to allow 12 hours or like 24 hours or something, or do we just want to keep it? I don't know.
So I was trying to remember what the conversation was when it came up last meeting. And like from what I could remember is that we would allow it to happen because 2 hours is still longer than that meeting would be. So it would still have to be open prior to that meeting, but we still discussed wanting it to be a shorter time period. I'm open to whatever you guys want. We can change it to whatever you guys want. That's just the time frame that I put on here when I was editing this because I wasn't sure.
I know I would.
We got a bunch of comments in the YouTube.
I know I would be comfortable if we were to have it as starting at midnight the day of the voting until the a certain point in that day, being say 2 o'clock. So that 14 hours.
Yeah, but what if they don't want to have to vote before they go to work that day and they want to do it when they're done working? I don't know. Like if the goal is to allow people to absentee ballot. If it's not, if we're literally doing this in person, but we just don't want to have hand ballots, then I guess 2 hours is fine. But if we're trying to do absentee voting for people that can't make it to the meeting but have voting rights, then I think it should be 24 hours.
Yeah, because
I
the
don't know.
intention is that even if we had in person, that you're paying attention. You're not just, you're paying attention for the actual general election, and you're not just, how am I wording this? Either way, we would still be able to use the electronic ballot system. Voters would just use their phones or
Mhm.
mobile devices, or we could have a mobile device available for them to be able to use. But yeah, at least for the general election, that shouldn't necessarily need to be, such a long period of time. If you guys want to change it to 12 hours, because then the only thing is that if we do host in-person meetings, then having it such a long window might encourage people to just, vote right away at midnight that day and then not come to a meeting. I mean, they can do it either way. They just have to wait for the link to open.
We could have it
So.
stipulated as the 24 hours preceding the meeting.
Right, but
Do
you would
you
not have in-person voting. You would still have electronic no matter what. So
Yeah.
you would just open it and then close it. And you'd want to make sure that you close it so that it falls at least within the time.
Do you have the YouTube chat open, Ashley?
I am trying to read it, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we need to have absentee ballots if you have a time frame. If you have a preset time frame to accept it that can be done remotely, absentee ballots would not need to be considered,
Yeah,
because all of them I'm reading the chat. There's a lot of talking about absentee ballots. If we're going full electronic, you don't need to worry about absentee ballots.
Yeah, I was just kind of using that as a phrase for like they can't make the meeting, so they're going to be voting, on their own terms. But
since everybody would still be doing the same type of ballot, it wouldn't be
Mhm.
considered an absentee ballot.
Yeah.
Right. That is the assumption, is that we would be using the e-ballot system and not doing in-person ballots. So even if you are there in person, you would not be handed a piece of paper. You would still receive an electronic link to vote on your mobile device. That is the assumption, is that we would use the e-ballot system moving forward.
That is what we're doing. Yep.
Because the biggest thing is that we're trying to get away from having to do votes in anime detour meetings and having to gather everybody if there's a bylaw change. This way we can do it.
I think it does
Oh.
document that voting will be electronic, but I could be wrong.
I
Kevin-
thought that
Kevin
got
is
put
correct.
in.
Stipulating that they're electronic is not a bad idea, because assumptions is how we got into this position in the first place.
Right. No, I just read it, but I thought there were electronic.
For a period of time electronically.
And then, like, I think Niketa was saying, we could just put at least 2 hours. And then if we decide we want to have it open longer, we can just make that decision at the time. And it doesn't have to be in the bylaws. We could just put maybe at least 2 hours and no longer than 24. I don't know.
So a minimum of 24, or a minimum of 2, but not to exceed 24.
That's yeah,
I like that.
that's acceptable.
I mean, that's a huge gap, but yeah, okay. I am working on a tiny laptop, so bear with me because I have one itty bitty screen. Okay. I don't like this. Okay. We're going to do this. electronic voting ballots. That sounds better to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at least with the e-ballot system, you can't submit multiple times, and we
Mhm.
can only send it to the people who qualify
Are
for
registered.
voting.
Yep.
Right. So we have a lot more control with that. That saves a lot of time. Okay, I'm not seeing any new comments. So I'm going to move that off the screen. So if more comments come up, just go ahead and let me know. And then, yeah, it says secretary will collect and announce the results. Secretary already has access and is the one setting up those ballots. So, I mean, all you need to do, from my understanding of the system, is that you just log in and go, here is the vote.
Exactly.
Right. Right. So if there's no other questions, then I am done making edits to this thing, and we can propose it or do whatever with it and just get it away from me. I love it, but please.
Someone phrased the thing that I have to read back to y'all. Big sigh.
Trying to think.
I have done so much wording
Yeah.
the last,
Let
yeah.
me type so I can. It's ratification, yes?
No,
No?
ratification happens by the
Or
members,
amendments.
which won't happen till November. We can talk about how that's going to work
Yes,
later.
for amendments. Amendments.
Right. So basically, the board votes to say if we want to approve it. And basically, it's just a suggestion. And then we send it to the membership to ratify. And it has to be ratified by 2/3 majority. So it's not a simple majority on this one, it's 2/3.
So so I put that we vote upon. So the board proposes that we vote upon, and then move the presented bylaw changes forward to be voted on by the eligible voting members for the amendments. Does that sound accurate?
I feel like there is a lot of unnecessary words there somewhere.
Yeah, I got like half of that.
Yeah, excuse me, my brain is really having a hard time.
There, I posted it in the chat so you can read it and not have to think the words quite as much.
That might help.
Which chat? Too many chats.
Slack.
There. Okay.
Okay, it'd be that chat.
So,
So basically, it would still be a motion in a second. So somebody would have to move to I am so sorry. I am so burnt out. Just move to propose the bylaw changes in full, and then we vote on it, and then if we accept it, then it goes to ratification. We don't need to specify ratification. That's already in our bylaws. There's already a system in place.
Okay, I just posted something. Does that work?
the board proposes that we present the bylaw changes to the eligible voting members for the amendments.
It wouldn't be for the amendment. Dave, help.
No, I was going to second it, but I.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, and it wouldn't be the board. It'd be X person. So
Sure. Let's
so
make
somebody,
it Tristan.
yeah. So proposes
So
that we
Tristan
present.
proposes that we present the bylaw changes to the eligible voting members.
Yeah, I don't think we need the for and the amendment parts.
Okay.
I don't think we need to be that fancy with it.
All right. So Tristan
Yeah,
proposed
what
that.
Nikita said.
Who would like to second it?
I'll second it.
David. All in favor?
Or should we? Is
Otura?
it visual? or-
Yep.
Hotura,
Yeah.
you're not on video, so there we go. All right, she
Okay.
raised her hand. Beautiful. Okay,
You're still
everyone
muted.
is in favor. That's okay. I
Oh,
can
sorry.
see her.
I was my hands are slippery. I'm so sorry. I'm here. Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I'll have to set that vote up, and I have to put
Okay,
that.
so we're gonna have to stop that for a second because we actually have a process specified, and we have to follow that process because we
Right.
don't have the new process yet.
Correct.
Exactly.
So this cannot happen until November 15th, and would happen during the Anime Detour meeting, which is being held via live stream.
Oh yeah, because you
Has
always
to be more than 4 weeks away. Has to
Yep.
be during the Anime Detour meeting. And then provided it gets ratified, then we go with the new rules in the new thing. So I still think you need to send a notification out to everybody. Hang on.
Me as in Christina or me as in Tristan?
As
Me.
in Christina.
Okay.
Okay, when the proposed amendment change is approved by the board, it must be emailed to the voting membership within 1 week of that board meeting. And again, 1 week prior to the meeting, assumed the meeting that you are voting on it, which would be November 15th. If the membership believes the board is passing over valid arguments, blah, blah, blah.
They can bring it up and we can discuss it.
Right. So, yeah. So within the week, voting membership needs a notification with a copy of the bylaws that we are proposing. And then a week prior to the November 15th meeting, they need to have another notice. At that time, we're going to have to give them instructions. And then we'll have to,
And yes, Michael, we will be sending them the updates so they can review them.
yeah, that has to be in the email, in both emails.
Yep.
And then the ratification would have to happen during the online meeting.
Yep.
Which is
Okay.
currently scheduled 1 to 4. So we don't ever take that long now. But yeah, it would have to happen during the actual meeting itself.
because that's what our current bylaws are, and we don't get to follow the new rules until they're passed.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
I will have to set up a very small e-ballot window, but it will let me do that. I just haven't done it before. Just have to make sure I get the time zones right.
Yeah, that might be a thing.
Just a bit.
There's been a lot in the chat since I looked at it last.
Yeah, there has been. Christina, just really quick, because
Yes.
you have to email this out within the week.
Yeah, I'll probably do it tonight or tomorrow.
Time zone math is the worst math, Kevin. You're a lie.
We are -6. Remember that. -6.
-6, yeah.
Right. So I'll work with you to make sure that it looks pretty at least, because right now it's a jumble of colors. So we just want to pick one color, and then we'll want to specify that, you're going to want to attach a copy of the whole one. We can talk about that later, but I can work
Sure.
with you on that
Okay.
to get it out.
Nope, Kevin, we are -6 Central time, same as Central America. -5 is Pacific, East Coast, in
Yeah.
the mountains.
East Coast. Yeah. Let's not talk about time zones anymore. I'm sorry I brought it up.
Don't scare me, Michael. God, I hate time zones. Okay. Okay, so we have voted on that. That has passed with all present. So then we will be getting that email out. Loop me in on that, please.
Okay.
I just
A discussion
yeah.
between me and Ashley about what the email is going to be.
Yes, please.
Absolutely not. I refuse to tell the president anything. He just gets to deal with the
Objection.
aftermath of my decisions. Nice.
Objection.
You don't get to object your own meeting. You're the chair. Nice try, though.
He can pretend. It's all right.
I can pretend I'm a lawyer. Not good.
All right.
But,
So I think we're done with the bylaw discussion.
All right. So bylaws are good.
okay.
We're at an hour. Do we want to break or
I
do
was
we want to
just-
do this?
I was just going to cover number 6 quick, because
Sure.
with between the bylaws, coordinators, new board members, and everything, we have not had a chance to. So the annual report, number 6 on our list, is a new thing for us. This was the first year we were looking at doing an annual report. Unfortunately, we have not had a chance to get that finished yet. So we would like to push that back to. We want to do November or December. I don't want to push it back too far, but just
Well, we've already got the 5-year plan and recording board meetings in December, so
want to go.
I don't know if you want to also have this. Okay.
Because I'm not seeing anything on the list for November.
Yeah, there's nothing on for
So-
November.
Okay, so we'll push that back to November.
So who wants this project?
First, Dave, you had your hand raised. Question.
No, I was asking about something else, but I can wait.
Okay.
What?
As far as who wants this project, I think that's something that might be best handled by the board as a whole. So discussing it in Slack, getting everything put together, so we're not dropping the ball.
Perfect.
I mean, like scheduling meetings and like collaborating instead of maybe just sitting and fighting with each other in a text. Well, not fighting. Fighting is the wrong term. Instead of trying to do everything over text, we might actually want to schedule work
Yes.
sessions.
Yes.
I'll think about it.
Text is not the best way to convey intonation.
Yeah. Okay.
But Dave, did you have something before we take a quick
Yeah.
15-minute break?
No, it was no. I don't know if you were doing the 5-year plan. I know I have the original issue of the 5-year plan that you handed out. I didn't know if there had been revisions since then that I would be able to take a look at.
We'll talk about that if you got a couple minutes after we're done with the meeting. We'll talk about that just because I don't know which copy you got, and I don't want to be debating.
Just send me the
different-
newer one.
Yeah,
Just send me the new one.
Yeah. Just as a whole, it's pretty much been on hold since May.
yeah.
I believe so. There hasn't been really any changes since May because we were focusing on getting the
None.
bylaws fixed and updated first.
What she said. So, alrighty then. So let's take a 15-minute break because this next section, it is going to be long. It is going to be intense and possibly uncomfortable. So, we'll be back here.
Stay
in about
tuned.
15 minutes, people. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Sorry for the delay there. A couple technical issues. So the last thing on our list for the evening was the ATC budgets. At this point, we've had a little bit of difficulties with COVID. That's shown us that we definitely need to look into other sources of income than just Detour. We are looking at grants, various other things. If anybody has any suggestions, ideas, thoughts on any of that, I'm new to the whole grant process myself. I've only been digging into it for a couple of months myself. I would be more than glad to have that discussion with people. Is anybody able to hear me? My page is not changing. There we go. Wow, that something's going on with my internet.
Hello,
There's
everybody.
a bit of a delay.
Sorry
for the but yes, you can please do reach out to me, or the board as a whole, so we can have this discussion. At this point, with the you can hear me or you cannot hear me.
It looks like they can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, I was just making sure. So I can hear you. I wasn't sure if that was a typo.
And there is
Okay.
a significant delay.
Yeah, I just noticed that. Anyways, so at this point, we have decided that we are going to delay the decisions on the budgets till the November meeting. With looking into the grants and everything, till we've looked into all of our options and had a little bit more of an in-detail discussion on the budgets. We don't feel comfortable making that decision this evening. So we are going to be moving that back to the November board meeting. So yes, other than that, I mean that's all we had going for this meeting. Again, any of that stuff, it's all new to. I know Dave's been doing some of it, but I don't know how much the rest of us have done. So, the more hands is better. Does anybody have any questions or concerns about anything at this point in time? Oh, Troy, sorry, I was looking at the chat. Didn't see you had your hand up.
We mentioned grants a few times. What is the realistic expectation that we would be able to apply for grants and receive those funds in time to allot them for spending for Anime Detour 2021?
As I'm new to this, that is not something that I am entirely sure of. Dave, I know you've got more experience with that. Do you have a thought on that?
Most grants have a specific timeline where they say you have to get it done by this, and then your grant will be dispersed. Yes, it's late in the game. However, what grants we have would be dispersed, especially if the deadline say 12/31/2020. That would be dispersed within the first quarter. Since the yes.
Troy, yes.
No, if you were, I'll go when you're done.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay. Last week I sent a proposal about looking at us qualifying for the CARES Act stuff that Christina had helped me with. I hadn't heard anything back on that.
That is actually, like I said, that is something I was going to save for the discussion tonight, just because I didn't want, I know we had a bunch of stuff on our plates already. I did take a little bit of a look at that, and that as, that's a very good option. So yes, I would
The
definitely.
deadline on that is the end of the year.
Okay.
So
So end of December then? Okay. Just a second. We had a couple questions in chat. So EIDL. What is the EIDL? I know that was in your email. I'm sorry, my
Grant, and I don't think I'm pretty familiar with the CARES Act through the retirement plans, but I don't think that we would qualify for the grant because that is based on employees.
Okay, yeah, and we don't have employees.
$1,000 per employee up to $10,000. The loan we could be eligible for, but again, that's a loan. and that has to be repaid.
Troy?
The loan has to be repaid, but that grant was the first 10,000 that doesn't have to be repaid under any circumstances.
Okay. Just to get
I did include screenshots, but
Yep. Just to get a quick couple questions from chat answered here. Buttons, as far as what happens if we don't find funding, that's going to be part of our discussion. I mean, we're not necessarily gonna go bankrupt or anything. But as far as that's something we have to discuss. It's been a hard year for everybody. We got to start looking at where we might have to start cutting some corners. Activities, maybe taking a hiatus on some of our stuff that we usually do throughout the year. Nikita, what are we looking at? Grants to cover. Again, it's with the refunds and just the lack of income because of COVID that we've had to do. Usually we'd be sitting. We would have decided on the budgets by now. But that's we just got to figure out what's safer. We don't want to dive into something headlong and end up coming up short. Just because of something that COVID might end up doing to us. So we want to be careful. As far as an online con, I know that's been a discussion among Troy and his team. That's not something that the board has the decision over. That would be a Troy decision and a Troy discussion. I would be more than happy, as being a con staff member myself, to help with that. I would really enjoy doing that, even if we don't have an in-person convention. Personally, as a staff member, not a board member. Even as a board member, I'd like to see it. As far as that, Christina, I know there's been. I can't say why we haven't really done much. I know there's been a lot on a lot of people's plates. I know Ash, Troy, and I have been really invested in the bylaws. I can't attest to many of people's personal lives, but I know for the last month or so I've been digging into the grants myself, trying to at least make some progress on it. Ian, yes, Michael, that's part of what we're going to be discussing is the variations in costs and everything. We just don't want to say yes right now until we've had a more in-depth discussion on what our options are. Did anybody else have any questions or feedback on that before we? Oh, sorry, we got a couple messages in chat. And I do apologize if we haven't been timely on getting onto those. I do apologize for that. If you have suggestions or would like to help with that, I would be more than willing to have and very happy to sit down and have a conversation about it. With absolutely anybody. It's, like I said, grants are a new thing to me, as well as loans and anything else. Whatever we may end up doing. That's all not necessarily my ballpark.
Delaying this talk doesn't mean that the board isn't talking about it. It's the board needs to do their due diligence to figure out where we're sitting and what we can do, rather than sit here for the next 3 hours and bang our head against a wall. And if that's a conversation that everybody wants to sit and be a part of, that's up to Tristan, I guess. But it's not that we're going to ignore this for a month.
May I speak?
Yes, Dave.
This is an unusual period and unusual circumstances, and it requires a consideration. It may look like we even thought of it. I'm sure we have. I'm positive we've had. But asking for why isn't it done yet at this time ignores the fact that we don't know what the legal situation will be 6 months from now. So that, there's all these facets and these different aspects that have to be considered. It's not a normal year. So normally this would be done already. The meeting happened and the board would have it. But this is not a normal year. So we ask for your patience and your understanding.
Well, we're going to give the chat just a minute to catch up because the video is just getting to you starting to talk here.
Oh, I keep forgetting that.
Nope, and that's fine. I'm not sure why it's going slower than it usually is. Usually we've got like a 10-second delay. But this is like a 30-second.
There are 2 comments in chat as well. I don't know
Yep.
if we can address those.
Well, there's a bit of a delay on our end. Between what we're saying and where it's being streamed. Yeah. So we do have an in-person concept predicated on only having grants. The budget we presented to you operates on taking on new registrations as we would expect. Yes, we do fully. We're not thinking that there's going to be 0 registrations. That's not even part of our mind. It's just the COVID has shown to us that as some of us have been looking towards, we can't entirely rely on just Anime Detour's registrations to keep the entirety of ATC going. We need to look at other options for income. We can't just be relying on one branch to make sure that the entirety of this branch, our charitable giving, our SOS, our communities, our communications, is to have all of them dependent on just one branch being Anime Detour when we as the parent organization are not doing anything to bring in money is a disservice to them. And it's us not doing our due diligence to make sure that we are stable if the worst case scenario were to happen and Detour were to ever have to close.
And just for clarification, yes, a budget has been presented for Anime Detour, but as a board member, without having done any additional stuff, and also with it up in the air, with Troy telling me himself, and being a part of that budget meeting, that we are not sure if we will be able to have an in-person con, I cannot in good consciousness even approve that budget as a board member myself. So even if we did decide to pass a budget right now, I would still vote against it personally, because in good consciousness for the organization, I cannot approve that budget until the board has had a chance to do their due diligence, because it is a very awkward time frame. But we can't, unless Troy or anybody else from the executive team can guarantee we will have an in-person convention, or that we can guarantee to monetize an online convention if that's what we have to do, I can't, in good consciousness, vote to approve that budget right now. Because we don't know if COVID's going to be around in spring still or not.
Troy?
A few things, as I've sat here as the coordinator of said event and not yet been asked an opinion on any of these matters. One, I have not officially presented a budget and asked for a motion to approve said budget. The budget meeting has been had, and I'm aware of where we were at financially. Second of all, I do not believe that it would be possible for us as Anime Detour to monetize an in-person or a virtual convention. a number of other much larger scale entities, 20,000 plus size conventions are not monetizing their conventions. It would immediately put us in a much higher expectation landscape. In addition to the odds of monetizing a convention without spending money, to have things to attempt to monetize to entice people to spend their money isn't a realistic expectation. And frankly, I think we can certainly do more digging, but I think with what you would need to spend and what you could hope to monetize, you would find yourself with a significant gap. And as of right now, the board does not have available funds enough to cover what we are looking for Anime Detour without any additional registration income, which in previous years we've been able to project, made more difficult this year with COVID, because we can't really project registrations if we aren't certain we'll have a convention.
We could, this is not really even relevant, but we could even, just put in a tip jar or something for a digital convention, but that would not be a reliable source of income.
No, that wouldn't. And I do want to apologize, Troy, for taking our discussions and end up having the assumption that was the submission of your budget. That is on part of my fault, so I do apologize for that.
I think we knew that we were in a bit of a uncertain status, that to have presented it officially and looked for motions, I mean, we could do that if we want to, get it down as a matter of record, but knowing where we are, it seems like it would just be to get something down on record versus, we know where we are, we know we need to have further discussion. So denying it at this point is, a formality, and I don't think it has to happen. But yeah, the uncertainty is why it wasn't presented and or proposed and hope to get a second. And as Ashley said, I would not expect or hope that it would be able to be approved without further looking.
Yeah, and I would much rather have that discussion before we make a motion. So at this point, I think that that's pretty much rounded down to our decision on it, that we need to have this discussion before we continue with the meeting or make any motions to approve the said budgets. So unless anybody else has any objections or any concerns about it, I would motion to adjourn the meeting, so that we can,
I second the motion.
so that we can continue our other discussions.
I second that motion.
Oh. All right.
Great.
Thank you everybody for joining us tonight. Thank you for the questions. We do like it when we get questions. We don't necessarily like to sit here and listen to ourselves talk. If you do have any questions outside of these meetings, please do feel free to email us at the atcboard@animetwincities.org, or you can email us individually. Again, on any of the topics we were covering tonight, and we would be more than happy to have a discussion. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining this evening, and have a good night. We will see you at next month's meeting.